Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, welcome. It's starting to become a little bit more like fall tonight. Excited to talk to you guys tonight about our parking enforcement initiative. We're going to get started with roll call. Sam Schoenberg, present. Jenny Schaefer, present. Marilio Garcia is present. We don't have any votes today, but the agenda, we're going to go through our public announcements as normal. We're going to do a quick round of updates, get into our parking alternative response team proposal. Then we're going to do public comment at the end. So if you have a public comment you'd like to give, please see Anna at the back. She'll write your name down and she'll hand it over to me. And then we'll talk about calls to action in our next meeting. As I mentioned, no votes. Public announcements. So if you're part of a neighborhood group, community group, and would like to just tell us about some of the events that are coming up or about your group, you can take 30 seconds and tell us about your group. All right. Go ahead and go to member updates.
All right, let's see. All right, so the first update is around supporting migrants. We updated our website, the 19th District Council.com website, with a bunch of resources, but also just wanted to flag this phone number, 855-435-7693. If there's any ICE sightings that you see, we recommend saving this in your phone number and calling. There are certain things that they're looking for when you're calling, not panicking, saying, oh my God, there's an ICE agent. But, you know, being able to do this, they salute is their acronym. Know the size and strength, so be able to report how many enforcement officers you see there, the actions, what are they doing? They're harassing people on the street, whatever it is you actually see them doing. Location or direction, so be specific about where you are, where they're located, what they're wearing, the U is for uniform. Describe, you know, what you see them wearing. The T is for time and date of observation, so make sure you're able to report that. And then equipment, what were their weapons on them, etc. So if people want to take out their phones and use that, record that phone number, you can. I'll also be on our website or take a picture of yours. Great idea as well. Next, the care team update. So last month we reported that there was a bunch of news articles out about the care team kind of talking about the failure of implementation, which we had also been seeing internally and been working really hard internally to push the mayor's team for progress. And I'm excited to report that the mayor's office has responded and there has been change happening within the care program. One exciting change that has happened is that there was a new hire of Dr. Arturo Carrillo, who is going to be the first deputy mayor of a new office called the Office of Health and Human Resources. The thing that's really exciting about Dr. Carrillo is that he was he was the co-founder of the Collaboration for Community Wellness, which is really the coalition that was behind the Treatment Not Trauma Coalition to push forward what they want for the care program. So I really think under his leadership, that shows a commitment from the mayor to really make sure that care is on a better direction, and I'm excited to see where that goes. They started a new steering committee that I get to sit on, so I'm excited for those meetings to start as well. We're going to start also having monthly meetings with Dr. Carrillo alongside Grace Gunn, who is working underneath him within the Office of Health and Human Resources. So I am happy that I think we are in a good direction and looking forward to the future of care. And the next care update, which is exciting, for those of you who were at our meeting in July, we had Dignity Best Practices come and speak about their field mediation work. Basically, they helped Dayton, Ohio set up a field mediation response program where teams of civilians could respond to 911 calls that were basically like disputes between neighbors, disputes between families that were low-level types of priorities for police, but needed a trained person. Dignity Best Practices, they received a grant to go and bring this program to 2 new cities and municipalities. So we helped connect them to Chicago, And they are right now, Chicago right now is working to fill out the application to apply to be in the next group of people getting support from Dignity Best Practices. So that's exciting connection, and hopefully that will move forward, and we'll keep you posted on that. Next one is NIASO. So another meeting that we had, gosh, I don't remember. Do you remember when we had our DSP meeting?
It was June.
June, yeah.
In June. Okay, so the month before that, we had a meeting on the district strategic plans.
It was right here.
Actually, yeah, we did. Yeah.
That's right. Look at that. So, and basically, what we brought in the community to that meeting, and we talked to community to hear kind of some ideas on what needed to happen in order to make these district strategic plans really meet the needs of the community and not being a box checking activity. Because what we were finding, not just in our district council, but for district councils around the city, that this was a shared frustration that these really weren't being implemented in meaningful ways to really engage community, to make and to serve the purpose of strategic planning, right? So we went through a long process of engaging community, engaging district council members. I think it's been like 6 or 9 months that we've been working really hard at this. Like I said, a group of six district council members from across the city have been working on this and engaging community and district councils, all of them. We have finally come up with our recommendations, and they fall under 6 major categories. The first one is improving accessibility of the DSPs. The second one is improving the quality of the content of the DSPs, strengthening community engagement, enhancing implementation and usage of the DSPs, enhancing the accountability, oversight, and enforcement of the DSPs, and then increasing collaboration between CPD and district councils in reviewing and finalizing DSPs. So we had under each of those categories, we had a bunch of different ideas of what CPD can do to strengthen the DSP. The full report is available on that website. You can click it. I also have brought one copy here if anyone wants to take a brief peek at it. And I'm excited to say that these recommendations got a wide range of support. 88% of all district council members voted in support of these recommendations. So we have delivered it now to the superintendent of police, and we're excited to hopefully continue working with him and the team to make these recommendations come to life.
Really quickly, relatedly, as you remember, the district strategic plans today are formed by 2 conversations that are called the community conversations held by CPD. Those will be actually next month, so be on the lookout for our newsletter when we announce the dates, because that's going to be really important so that you can give your input in the current structure. Obviously, like the recommendations that Jenny has just mentioned is to improve this process, but right now the structure is through these 2 conversations in October. So very much want to put that on your radar for your calendar next month.
And one of the things that I'm most excited about these recommendations is they really create a framework for making beat meetings a really useful platform for problem solving when community has issues, making sure that we can have the police officers there help think of a plan. What can we do to address issues that the community is having at a beat meeting, rather than having to, that is the point of a beat meeting, really, and we want to see those be used to the best of their ability.
On the beat meeting piece, those are currently happening under the CAPS program, and I did just want to highlight that that is another opportunity to engage, particularly in your neighborhood, in your beat, where you might be facing particular public safety concerns or complaints. Just this last week, I attended beat meetings for 3 beats in the district: 1911, 1912, and 1921. The first 2 are sort of in Lincoln Park and North Center. The other one is in Roscoe Village. We'll keep trying to go to those as much as we can. Unfortunately, tonight we are double booked with a beat meeting. We try to avoid those conflicts where we can, but we put out our schedule before they did. So I'm not blaming anyone, but that's just how it happened this time. But as a reminder, we here in this room are in beat 1913. And the next meeting for that beat is on November 4th, actually right in this room. So thank you, Pastor, for having us lots of public safety opportunities here at the church. Just east of us is Beat 1914, across Broadway and all the way to the lake. Their next Beat meeting is October 8th at the Twin Towers building at 4550 North Clarendon. And we've also updated our website, 19thdistrictcouncil.com, with the current Beat schedule and where you can find where your Beat is and where the next Beat meetings are. We think there's a lot of opportunities to enhance what those Beat meetings can be and how meaningful they can be, but they're already a great opportunity to engage officers directly.
All right, and the final update we have here is about the workforce allocation study. Disappointingly, this is moving very slowly. We are working really hard to understand why that is. We are not getting a ton of answers. I encourage you to go on the website, and on their website, they have a question and answer board. If you type in, there is a long address, but if you type in Chicago Police Department Workforce Allocation Study, it should come up. You can also go to our website and click on, we have a couple different ways. You can click on this slide, you can click on the take action side, but you can ask questions. I have tried asking questions. It's also very difficult to do. Only 5 people have asked questions, so it's just kind of, it's a hard, frustrating process for such an important study that's being done, right? What we have heard is, this is from their website, this picture. The current state assessment has been completed, they said. They are supposed to be publishing and sharing what that current state assessment is. We have not seen that. We have not heard what that will look like, but as soon as we do, we will pass it along to you all. And so currently they're working on their staffing analysis of the patrol and non-patrol, as well as staffing allocation model development. So they're now looking, now that they know what the current structure looks like, and I know that took a long time because they wanted to run it all by CPD, make sure that what their understanding was correct, which is necessary, and it does need to be done well and thoughtfully. So I think there are some times when moving slowly is appropriate, but I hope that in the future the communication is better as far as why it's moving slowly and how it will progress, what they're doing to make it move quicker so that we can answer these really important questions.
Yeah, go for it. That's a good question, Mike. We have not attempted, and at least 3 of us personally, but I mean, given that it's through CPD, we could also FOIA CPD.
We've tried a bunch of ways to get in touch with them. As one of the things that district councils have the ability to do through a special or a general order called GO 111 is to request certain information from CPD. So we have submitted a GO 111 request, which is probably very similar to a FOIA request in order to get some information. And Anna, sitting right behind you, is helping us do that. So thank you, Anna, for your hard work on that.
Is there anything our older person can do?
I think we can keep telling our older people that this is something that we want to see. They are supposed to give quarterly updates. I know that I haven't gotten or seen a quarterly update. The older people are supposed to get quarterly updates, and typically Alderman Martin has shared those with us. I know he's busy. I know all the elders are really right now kind of swamped in budget stuff. But we haven't seen a report of that lately. One of the things we are asking, so one of the district councils also have formed a district council workforce allocation study group, which again is district council members from across the city. One of the things that we've been asking for is to be part of the steering committee, which we've been told no to for the second, we're not going to be part of that steering committee. However, we are asking for a way for us to get updates about the steering committee, a way for us to make sure that your questions and your concerns from the workforce allocation study are included in what the future of the workforce allocation study looks like. So we are working on that, and it's always a good idea to talk to your alderman about it. I don't know what that's going to do. It's really a CPD and a matrix thing that I think needs to change.
Though what I will say is people tend to be responsive when aldermen speak up in the city. That's just how the politics of the city works. The ordinance, the whole reason we're doing a workforce allocation study of the police department is because an ordinance passed unanimously in city council to call for one to be done within 1 year. They're behind schedule on that. It's being paid for by private foundation funding, so it's not costing the city anything, but it should be done according to what the law says. Alderman Martin, if anyone is in the 47th Ward, was the person who put this bill forward in the city council, and then all the people voted for it. So they all theoretically should have an interest in making sure that this gets done and is done so transparently. And so a call to their office, I think, is never a bad idea.
As always, we want to give you an update on our community partnership plan. As it has been lately, we have been very focused on the parking enforcement initiative that we're going to present on today. So there is no new progress to report. You can find out each one of our goals linked here and on our website. So please be sure to check that out.
And just to point out, we are a couple things about this. I know I thought for the past couple of meetings we haven't had a ton of change. And even though I think one thing that we always talk about needing to do is go back and look at the goals that we have completed, and those have spawned next steps and next steps and next steps that we are working on, like the district strategic plan. That was a lot of work that has been done from a beginning goal that we just have not updated yet. So same thing with with the workforce allocation study. All of this stuff spawns from other goals, so we are still doing a lot of work, even though the progress says that the delta there is 0.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Sam.
Let's show you that work, shall we? We wanted to give an update and really sort of do a presentation for folks here in our district that Jenny and Murillo did in front of the city council. I was unfortunately not able to make it to this subject matter hearing where we presented in front of the Public Safety Committee, but I've had the pleasure of being part of the development of this whole proposal. And we've been working on it for the last many months. It was really all spurred by work that Murillo did along with Rick Federick, who's with us, and Eric Heidebreder, who got millions, literally millions of 911 call records from OEMC, the 911 call takers. They worked over months to categorize, clean the data, put it in a database and analyze it, and found that parking was among the highest volume of 911 calls by category that CPD gets citywide. And we thought, really, should police officers be responding to parking calls? Should that be 10% of the 911 calls in our police district that our police are responding to on an annual basis? So that's what really spawned the idea for this proposal. And the proposal is to create a pilot program in our district, the 19th, along with the 8th police district, and we'll get into more about why those two districts in a minute, in which the Department of Finance, which already employs civilian parking enforcement aides, in which DOF parking enforcement aides respond in real time to those 911 parking violation calls instead of police. There are already parking enforcement aides that walk routes throughout the city and give parking tickets. Sometimes you'll see a bunch of parking tickets in a row along a street. That's because most likely a Department of Finance parking enforcement aide went by and analyzed who was in violation of parking violations. And our goal here is to have, well, and to step back another second, but when people call 911 for parking violations, those calls get routed to CPD, and CPD answers almost 100% of those calls. But those calls are also pretty low priority. We'll get into more of that in a bit. So our proposal is to create rapid response parking enforcement aides under the Department of Finance who would respond to those 911 parking violation calls in the first instance. And the idea would be to have these RRPEAs, rapid response parking enforcement aides, respond to 911 parking calls Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And outside of those hours or on holidays, primary responsibility would revert back to CPD. And at all times, CPD would still have the ability to enforce the parking rules and parking laws, but they wouldn't be the ones tasked with responding to those calls in the first instance.
And just one quick thing to add to that, I think in addition to really being helpful to CPD, this proposal is helpful to community too, right? Like when there is a car parked in a tow zone or in a crosswalk or whatever, community wants a response to that. And when it's the lowest priority for police, they're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting. And we've heard from 911 dispatch that they get a lot of repeat calls from somebody because it's been 4 hours and no one has been there to do anything about the car that's in their grandmother's handicap space. And that's frustration for community, and it breaks down trust between police, it breaks down trust with government, and so I think that this also will help work on that as well.
So we are moving towards this pilot program, and we have real momentum. Matt Martin from the 47th Ward, whose work it falls mostly within the 19th Police District, has been a real champion of this. He sits on the Public Safety Committee, called for a subject matter hearing on this issue, and we, after a couple of reschedulings of that hearing, after months of working with various departments who are relevant to this proposal, held that hearing in the Public Safety Committee earlier this month to great acclaim, I will say. We'll get to that in a bit, but the next step after that is we're drafting an ordinance. We've been working with the Legislative Research Bureau to draft an ordinance and have been working on that. And Alderman Martin is planning to introduce that ordinance in City Council to create this pilot program tomorrow, which is very exciting. And then after that, the ordinance would get referred to the relevant committees. Our goal then would be to get it voted out of those committees and get to a vote in the full City Council and get at least 26 votes for it to pass and the mayor to sign it. Of course, we would like every alderman in the city to vote for this. To come up with this, yes, there's a couple questions.
These rapid response people have already just ticket, or do they have?
It'll be mostly just ticketing, but we'll get into some of the finer points in a little bit here. Other question? So to get to this point, there was a lot of engagement that our council has done across various aspects of the city. We've tried to engage with community members and residents at each of these meetings. We've had separate meetings with OEMC, the 911 call takers, the Department of Finance, and CPD to understand. We've essentially brought them, we have this idea, what are your concerns? What do you think it would take to implement this? What considerations should we think about that we're not thinking about right off the bat? We've also engaged the relevant unions who have members who either work in these departments or would fill these roles. We held a meeting with most of the older people or their staff within the 19th Police District, and we've engaged the command staff at CPD and also other district councilors and commissioners on the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability. Now, why are we targeting the 8th and 19th districts? Well, there are data-driven reasons why each of these districts are good targets for this pilot. They are the two most populous districts in the city. Both have more than 200,000 residents. As we'll see on a slide going forward, we both sort of fall in the middle of parking violations by volume to 911. About 10% in both districts of 911 calls in each district are for parking violations. But I would say that this pilot is also the product of a really great partnership that we've had with a particular district councilor in the 8th district named Jason Huff, who's had decades of experience himself working for the city of Chicago. I will say, the Venn diagram about things on which we agree is maybe narrower than some other police district councilors across the city. There's a lot of which we just don't see eye to eye when it comes to police allocation, what the priorities should be, but I think both of us have seen a lot of value in putting this kind of program together because parking violations are such a burden on officers, because our residents do want faster response times to parking violations, and it's been a really valuable partnership to work across the aisle, so to speak, to the degree that there's an aisle with district councils. And going to this is just the next slide is the volume of parking violations in each of the districts. As you can see, it's sort of grayed out here, but across the city, almost 8% of 911 calls citywide are for parking violations. The 8th and 19th districts fall right in the middle of that distribution out of the 22 police districts. In some districts, as you can see, the 25th and 24th districts, it's as high as 14 or 15% of 911 calls are for parking violations. So that's but because of the 8th and 19th work on this, because of our population, our geographic diversity, and the volume of 911 calls that are for parking violations, we think it's a good place to start for this pilot. And we've also, Jenny mentioned some of the benefits of this. I think, number one, people want faster response times to this basic problem, but also want officers focusing on something other than minor enforcement issues. If this is taking up 1/10 of their call volume, that's time that they could be spending working on building relationships in the community, walking beats, working on more serious crime issues. We want higher citizen satisfaction, free up CPD time. This is also, we think at least will pay for itself, and we'll get to some of the revenue pieces in a minute. But the thing with parking tickets is any parking ticket issued and paid is revenue to the city. And in a very tough budget year, this is the kind of proposal that we think could at least pay for itself, if not generate additional revenue for the city. And we want to make sure that we're modeling what alternative first response could be, not just in other departments in Chicago, but for cities across the country.
Okay, so to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of what we're actually proposing, we are proposing that there'll be responders 7 days a week between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. There'll be two. This might be hard to. I'm going to try my best to explain this, but basically there'll be two groups of RPEAs in each district, and each group will have 2 RPEAs assigned, so a total of 4 RPEAs per district. Basically, one group would work Sunday through Thursday. The second group would work Tuesday through Saturday. And that way, that aligns with a lot of the union contracts that we have to think about. That aligns with making sure that we get the coverage that we need, and it aligns with the current hours that the PEAs are working right now. So basically, we would have there'd be a couple of days a week where those two would overlap with each other, so you would get 4 RPAs. But we also know that with days off and with vacations and all those other things, we wouldn't be having 4 RPAs most days. We're also, again, for the most part, there'll be 1 supervisor per day, except for those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday shifts. Because of the way union contracts work and everything, there'll be 2.
You unpack what RRPA stands
for. Oh yeah, sorry. RRPA stands for Rapid Response Parking Enforcement Aids. So, and that's kind of the position that we're looking to create. Right now, the people that are going about just giving those tickets on the street are called parking enforcement aids. So we just want to create this rapid responder parking enforcement aids.
One of the things that we wanted to be very conscious of is not disrupt the Department of Finance's current system, because it's actually working really well. And so when we talked about creating this pilot program, it was an augment to what they're doing today. So that's why we wanted to have similarity between the PEAs, but make it very well known that this is for rapid response in real time.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we thought about is right now, because the districts are far apart from one another, it makes more sense to have each have their own individual supervisor. But hopefully, once this pilot expands, we can expand the number of rapid response parking enforcement aides that are supervising, the amount of supervisors that are supervising the response aides, rapid responders.
That they be. You have a marvelous guest out in this water. I don't see anybody else having it except me, and there's a whole bunch on the table. Wow, you ought to be good. Wow.
We are very proud. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Anna, for answering all
Yeah. Marvelous.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's not on the boulder. What I did is there's 8 PDC, you're gonna say there's 2 groups of 8.
It's 8 per district.
Yeah, 2,680,000 is gonna be what you have brought.
We'll get into the finance. Yeah, we'll get into the finances here. It's changed a little bit since that one pager, but it's definitely, like Sam said, gonna pay for itself or even generate revenue.
Yeah. Congratulations. Really. This is what this is what comes out of the grant. City has to find ways to get money without taxing.
hence we looked at parking. No, it's okay. Trisha, did you have a question?
Just with the RPEAs be assigned, like they would always be, two people would always be in the 19th. They wouldn't be, they would know their area.
That's the intention. You know, the Department of Finance will ultimately determine exactly how that works, but that was the intention when we introduced it.
We've had a couple meetings with the Department of Finance, with OEMC, Office of Emergency Management and Communication. They are the ones that are the dispatchers, the call takers, to best figure out how to dispatch these calls. We are working to get one final call with them to actually put the stamp on it. But I think what we have talked about with them and where we've kind of netted out is the resident will call 911, the OE is the one dispatcher will take the call. When they recognize that it's a parking violation call, they will then send it to a Department of Finance dispatcher, who will then dispatch it to the RRPEA, the rapid responder, and they will go and address it and they will clear it out. One of the things that CPD asked at the subject matter hearing was for to be announced over their radio, so that they can just be aware of where the cars are going. So that's something that we are going to make sure that's actually in the ordinance, as well as making sure that any license plates are run through their leads program, which it just scans for any flags on the license plate. And then one last thing is, when the RRPAs are not responding to 911 calls, they will be given a route to go out, and they'll continue to go about the route as a regular parking enforcement agent would. So we have thought a lot about safety. We know that we need to make sure, and it's important to us that everybody is safe as they go out to respond to these calls. We have done an analysis, which we are about to show in the next slide, but it confirms that parking enforcement calls are very low risk. 99% of all 911 calls related to parking violations are confirmed as parking violations. So some calls, people call in, and the call taker will mark it as an act of robbery. And then you get there and they realize it's actually something different. It's actually, something, and so then the call type changes. But we were able to, thanks to the data that Aurelio and Rick got, to look at what those starting call types were and final call types. And a parking violation is pretty cut and dry. It's not that, there's not a lot of change in that. And then the next slide, it just shows that we also found out, we took all the call types that were given parking violation codes, and there was a little under 300,000 of those. Of those, only 108 of those calls had involved a violent or potentially violent situation. So that's less than 0.039%.
One of the reasons we did this analysis is because we had a concern from a lieutenant in CPD saying, what if a parking violation call is actually something dangerous? And the great thing is that we have data to back it up. We literally have millions of calls logs. That's why we took the 275,000+ calls to see what it was called in as and what it was confirmed as. And that's why we were very relieved to see that fewer than 0.05% of those calls ever turned into something potentially dangerous.
And I just want to give kudos again to Rick for helping to analyze this data, but also creating a dashboard that showed us exactly which calls over this entire period came in as a parking violation, and then at the end were switched to something else, and then we were able to analyze what that something else was to count up how many might involve a dangerous situation. So that data really allowed us to make this calculation. Question?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is a question for Rick, you guys, but is that rate similar in the
That's citywide. So we did not analyze that by district. Okay. We analyzed that across the city, taking about 300,000 calls between 2022 and 2024, and only just over 100 of them, less than 0.04%, included something where there was a person there, or it became a battery, or there was a weapon involved, or even something that might be suspicious.
And as with everything we do, everything's online too, just to look at the our slides, and then the full appendix slide shows exactly what those kinds of calls were as well. So one of the important things that we needed to get across is that the RRPAs that we are suggesting do not take on any parking enforcement situations that the parking enforcement aides take on, that do not take on today, meaning they're going to keep the same type of response, except that they'll be doing it in real time. One of the things that we learned from the Department of Finance is there are safety protocols that they put into place for parking enforcement aides in case they are deployed to the city's hot zones or potentially more dangerous areas of the city. Things like going out in groups of 2 or instructing and encouraging folks to not engage with large groups, not engage in anything that looks potentially dangerous. And we are going to make sure that the RRPEAs are instructed that if there's ever a violent or dangerous situation, to call CPD directly. Again, safety is the most important thing that we wanted to be conscious of as we develop this pilot program. Question?
Yeah, you think about the situation, is that the RRPA won't do anything that the PDA currently does not do, or as in they will use the same safety protocols that PDA does? What I'm asking is, if a call comes in for a PD1, PD2 in a neighborhood, the pilot program RRPA would respond.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not just a standard truck enforcement.
It's a standard enforcement that they do, but they would also have to take the protocols and yes, to answer your question, yes. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
How long will this pilot program last?
Great question. We wanted to be in a pilot program for at least a year. For a year, it's just there's seasonality. Winter is very different from the summer. We don't understand how it's going to be different in the 8th and 19th. So that's something that we're currently actually requesting for the verbiage to be laid out. But a year is the intended pilot length. In terms of training, the Department of Finance would be the ones that are fully responsible. As we've just mentioned, it would be very similar to the training of the PEAs today. It would follow the exact same protocols, including ordinance enforcement, safety procedures, and vehicle operation. And then CPD was kind enough to, on a joint call with Department of Finance, to help train our PEAs to support their efforts, just to make sure that they mitigate any safety risks. So, training them in any potential dangerous situations, to how to avoid them and how to get in contact with CPD. In terms of equipment, so we are talking about rapid response. So we are going to suggest that Department of Finance have our RPEAs equipped with a ticketing device, a manual ticket book in case that ticketing device actually goes down, and vehicles, so dedicated vehicles, because these are going to be in real time. So if a 911 call comes in the 19th district, we want them to be able to rush over and be able to address it in a timely fashion. One of the things that we do hear from the police is that because it is a priority 3 call, the lowest priority, that sometimes those parking violations are no longer existent because the person came and moved their car because they went about and did their business, and it's no longer a parking violation. So the hope is with a vehicle, it's a more timely response. And also we're suggesting integrated technology platform for efficient call assignments, response tracking, data entry, and then building it into their existing parking enforcement system for consistency and efficiency. Again, we did not want to rock the boat. We do not want to disrupt any of the current system. This is all an augment to what they currently have. And to what Mike was alluding to here, we wanted to highlight what the budget considerations would be for this pilot program. So as you know, it is a pilot program for the 8th and 19th police districts. So this is the unit across the total pilots across both districts. So you can see we have line items for the salary and benefits for the new RRPEAs, their supervisors, the new dispatchers that were going to be required for the Department of Finance, purchasing vehicles, equipping the RRPAs with phones and ticket printers. This is all sourced through the Department of Finance and their estimations. So the grand total for the estimated cost for this pilot program is $2.6 million. And as Sam has mentioned, we believe this program is going to, at minimum, pay for itself. So again, according to the sources within the Department of Finance, we know that a PEA today writes 5 to 6 tickets per hour, generating $442,000 in gross revenue, or $335,000 in net revenue. We have been told, this is actually updated since we presented at City Council, that we should assume a reduction in ticket writing by RRPEA by 40% compared to our PEA, which is totally unexpected. They're going to be doing something new. It's a pilot program. They're not going to be on normal routes, waiting for 911 calls to come in. However, even if we take that 40% reduction, we still assume, based off of the numbers that we've been given, this could generate $265,000 for each RRPEA. Therefore, we think this pilot program could generate $4.2 million in gross revenue. And if we count the costs that we just presented in the last slide, we still think that this could generate over $1.5 million in revenue across these two pilot programs. Again, these are two districts, lots of information, lots of metrics to capture first, but this is something that's really encouraging because, as Sam mentioned, it is a financially difficult situation that we're in as a city, so this is something that could, at minimum, pay for itself.
Your numbers were based on an annual number, 1 year?
Correct, yes, annual, base per PEA or RRPA. Yep.
Sorry, just on that, yes, annual for the salary and benefits, but some of these would be one-time costs like vehicle purchases, phones, ticket printers. So not all of those costs would be repeated each year. Sorry.
Question I have is, it seems like this is solving an issue for ticketing quicker and getting the revenue, especially for those violators who might be moseying in and out and that's not a ticket anymore. But how do you see it actually solving the issue where people are like, I need this car gone. They're parked in my spot.
So that's a great question. And going back to like the towing question, that's something that we have to continue to work on with these departments that we mentioned, having one more meeting with all of them. We need to figure out if it's in the capacity of the streets and sanitation department to be able to help with the towing. One thing we're trying to understand now is we have questions to CPD to understand, like, they're the only ones right now who can call for a tow case. So under what circumstances make a tow case? There's no way that every parking violation where a person is parked in a handicapped spot, unfortunately, we don't have the equipment or the ability to tow every single one of those. So we're trying to understand from CPD, like, what makes a tow case and how can we make sure that those cars that would be typically towed still are able to be removed. And what does that have to look like? Because that is an important consideration that needs to be.
Yeah, an alderwoman from the Public Safety Committee asked the same question, and my response was, well, if we're only ticketing, we're not solving the problem 100%. So towing is one of the things that's very much on our minds on how to get this into the ordinance. As we've mentioned, we have Department of Finance, Office of Emergency Management, and CPD. Towing is going to be under Streets and Sanitations, which is another department, and so we now need to enroll more stakeholders and understand what their needs are and how we can get this addressed, because as Jenny just mentioned, Department of Finance currently does not have the authority to ask for towing. And for me, that's not solving the problem 100%. So it's something that's very, very top of mind for us, and we're looking forward to seeing how this can come to fruition through the ordinance that we're putting forth through City Council.
And I also think I 100% agree. And I think we have to be realistic with the resources we do have, knowing that the city just does not have the capacity to tow every single car. So that's why I think it's important to understand, like, how many times do CPD get to call for a tow case, and what are those qualifying factors for them?
This is very indirect but encouraging. One of the conversations that we have with the Department of Finance is they say that there is a negative correlation between an active parking enforcement aid and illegal parking, meaning if there's an enforcement agent out and about, that means people are less likely to actually park illegally. So that is going to be an indirect benefit that I'm hoping for. Obviously not solving the problem, but that is going to be something that I will, at least have in the back of my mind as a slight peace of mind. As Sam mentioned, we've been really lucky, and we've been really doing the work to get as much support and enrollment from a lot of different stakeholders across the community and the city. We have 11 of the 15 alders across 8th and 19th districts, including 5 of our 6 alder persons. The sole outlier there is Alderman who watches back in the 32nd. Despite having several engagements and outreaches to him, we did not get his signature of support for whatever reason.
Yes.
Yet.
If you live in his ward, I encourage you to give him a call and ask him to take our calls.
And if you live in any of the other wards, call your alderman to thank them for supporting this, because I think it's received wide support, but you know, anytime they hear from folks that they're doing a good job is also helpful. Yeah, Rick?
I'm gonna put you on a spot, but the 4 out of the 15 that would not sign on, was there any consistent reason between them for not doing it, or was it just not yet comfortable with it, or did they actually have an issue that is something that needs to be addressed?
More the former. Some of them just simply didn't respond. Some of them said, "I want to see how this plays out. I'm not going to put my name against it." One of them, asked if, budgetarily, where is this coming from? Getting really into logistics. So it was a mix of reasons as to why not. But 11 of the 15, we were really happy with that. And I think we have at least 7 in the Public Safety Committee that have signed on in support, which is great, because to get it out of committee, we'll need that support and then take it to full city council. So it was a mix of reasons as to why not. Nothing that I've seen has been overtly negative or anti this program. It's just more about, let's see the logistics and understand a little bit more. Yeah. And then in terms of district councilors, we did get 47 of the 65 to sign on, which is a great, strong support. And also 6 of the 7 commissioners on CCPSA. One of the great things that was a surprise to me, but also a pleasant surprise, is that Deputy Chief Jill Stevens, who was at the subject matter hearing with us, flatly said we absolutely support this, and our goal is to have this go citywide, which was amazing, because in previous conversations with CPD, it was a little bit more hesitancy, but to have it on the spot in City Council, it was awesome to hear, and we're looking forward to continue working with them to get this rolled out. And then we want to thank Alderman Vasquez in the 40th Ward. He's been a very strong supporter, but he gave us some nice kudos during City Council, which was really kind of him. And let's see what else Sam put in here. Also, Alderman Martin had a great quote. And, one of the things is, we feel really honored to be able to bring the vision of district councils to life, because this is the kind of the things that we, I know, at least I had a aspiration of doing, right? Hearing things that a community are saying, then take it to city council and seeing something actually change. And so really exciting, a lot of work to be done, but it's really awesome to see that we have such strong aldermanic support here in the 19th district. And then also 18th Ward, Alderman Derek Curtis, it said it's a no-brainer. So he was actually the first city council member to speak, and when he gave his quote about it being a no-brainer, it put me at ease. So that was really nice to hear to kick off the question and answer. And as always, the full video and presentation of what we do is online, so be sure to check out that resource portal card. It's called Parking Alternative Response Team. We have a full video of our presentation and the presentation itself online.
Spoiler alert, it's basically what you just heard, but it's in another forum, and you get to hear the questions the alders asked as well. And several of them did ask about towing. Some asked about getting ward superintendents involved. Others asked about the length of the pilot. So there's some really good engagement from alders across the city on this.
And we've said this before, but I know we're talking about parking. It seems a little bit boring. It seems a little bit low priority, but as one of the benefits that Sam highlighted, it's like a model for first response, alternative first response, right? And so one of the things that I always think about is, why are we even mentioning the term alternative response? It's because we put 90% plus of 911 calls onto police, and then there is no other option other than maybe something novel like an alternative response system. So it's really encouraging. I'm really proud to work with Sam and Jenny on this, and Jason and Rick. Again, thank you so much for all your work and help. It's cool to see this come to life, and we're excited to keep following it.
But it's not done yet. We haven't even introduced the legislation yet, so we will keep you updated, and would appreciate any ideas you have to make it better, because that's what has informed this whole process. And just getting the word out that it's there, calling your alderman's office to get it through, and we'll keep you updated about other ways to get engaged.
And so now we move to the public comment portion of tonight. We have one question before that?
And one question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
40% reduction in management. They will be out there, are our they're on
The idea is, yes, you will have a PEA and RRPEA dealing with the same zone. The RRPEAs are going to be deployed by district. PEAs are deployed by zones, which zones exist in districts. But the PEAs have their set routes that they go out and they know the day before what they're going to be doing, and they have very specific things that they're looking for. Whereas the RRPEA is going to be listening for 911 calls specifically. So that's another reason why the 40% reduction is expected, because you have to wait for that call to come in. And there's also another reason.
Follow-up that's really good support from the role is taken.
No, the PEAs, again, the Department of Finance current process with PEAs is not going to be disrupted. The goal would be to launch this pilot program citywide, where we will have RRPAs in each district, and they're going to be the ones that are listening for 911 calls. It may not be, 8 RRPAs per district like we've suggested for this pilot program. You might be able to spread them out more efficiently. One of the things that we want to be very mindful of is be bare bones but efficient enough to be able to be effective with what we're suggesting as a new pilot, because it costs money. But as Jenny mentioned too, right now we have 1 supervisor per district. Maybe that supervisor can cover 3 districts, right? As we begin to launch this out. One of the things that we didn't put into this presentation, but is in the full presentation, is just metrics and evaluation that we are going to look for as this pilot program is, deployed, understanding what is coming to fruition, what are some trends, how can we make this more effective. Maybe we don't need 22 programs in each of the 22 districts in Chicago. Maybe we need half of that.
What people they have on?
TBD. That's going to be the question for Department of Finance as we get down the line.
Right now, parking enforcement aides have, I think, they're green vests, and you've probably seen them around. I'd imagine it would be similar to that, but that's a level of granularity we haven't quite gotten to yet. Yeah. It's a good idea.
That'd be great to see.
The city's success story. That's a really good idea, and just to make people know that this is a new resource available. Some of this will be habit changing too, that people understand that there is a different resource available. One of the other people at the subject matter hearing asked for a dedicated phone number for these rapid response parking enforcement aides, so people could know just to call them and bypass 911 altogether. It would still all go into the same system. We'll, once we get down the road, see if that is feasible, but we do want to make sure that people know that this is happening.
How come you don't include any kind of revenue owing is allowed? How come owing is part of your
We're not sure about that, actually. Going back to the questions Jenny said we still have outstanding, we don't actually know how often police do put in a tow request or how much revenue that generates. Really, the program so far has involved the departments that only include parking enforcement. Towing is a separate department, streets and sanitation, and they really do have a lot of resource constraints about how many tow trucks they actually have operating at any one time. So we're just not sure if that can be factored into any of the program yet, but we recognize that that's a set of questions that we want to get answered, because we do want to make sure that if you do need a car moved right now, that can be handled through this program as well.
One more question. Is there any concern that the program will almost be too successful in that people know that they're going to get caught by the rapid response team, therefore no longer violations? Parking violations increase, which is obviously benefit, but revenue is increase.
That means we would have safer streets. So that's a great benefit in itself. From a revenue generating perspective, I see what you're saying, but I think that's a good problem to have if we have that problem.
And although we want it to pay for itself, I think if that was the outcome, I'd consider that a success. This is not designed to be a new tax or a revenue generating program. It's helpful to get it passed in this really, really tough budget environment that the city is facing. But if that means we have everyone following the parking laws a lot more assiduously, then that's a success in my book too.
And the police have more time to do what we want them.
Correct. And one of the things I did want to mention and touch on is that when we work with the Department of Finance to understand how they deploy their parking enforcement aids, they do take safety as the number one consideration. So if there's a bike lane that's blocked, if there's a fire hydrant that's blocked, like they put a multiplier that emphasizes the fact that this is a safety risk, and they don't try to avoid a punitive system where they know that there's going to be expired licenses of more frequent, and so then it hurts, marginalized community more. It's just more about the actual safety hazard on the road, and that was an encouraging factor. And one thing that we wanted to keep top of mind as we deploy this, and one of the things that we, are very mindful of is that the 19th district is one of the more affluent districts in Chicago, so it is, something that is going to minimize that concern of, consistently or overly punitive measures against marginalized communities. All right, we'll move to public comments. And I did update my timer for it to be fall themed. And we have one public comment, and that is Dave Swendler. Okay, and then we'll have Mike as well. I don't know if my timer is gonna work though. Yes, I'll show up 3. Well, my timer's not working, so I'll do it on my phone, and I'll just give you like a 10-second heads up.
Okay, hopefully I want to. Like to thank Mario